سبقت لهم منا الحسنى أولئك عنها مبعدون لا يسمعون حسيسها وهم فيما اشتهت أنفسهم خالدون لا يحزنهم الفزع الأكبر وتتلقاهم الملائكة هذا يومكم الذي كنتم توعدون يوم نطوي السماء كطي السجل للكتب كما بدأنا أول خلق نعيده وعدا علينا إنا كنا فاعلين ولقد كتبنا في الزبور من بعد الذكر أن الأرض يرثها عبادي الصالحون إن في هذا لبلاغا لقوم عابدين وما أرسلناك إلا رحمة للعالمين صدق الله.
صدق الله العظيم. Thank you, Brother Osama. Thank you, Sheikh Morgan Ghidoni. And thank you all for coming today. This event is made to share the experience of the Sheikh Ghidoni and to share the experience of people who choose to become Muslims because we all come from cultures where we are already Muslims. So we have to see the Islam from another new perspective. Just a few words about our guest. As all we know, Sheikh Morgan, he is a Muslim scholar, graduated in Islamic Science and Sharia at the University Imam Sana of Yemen. Sheikh Abdulrashid is also a member of the Italian Islamic Association of Imams and Spiritual Guides. And in addition to that, he is a teacher at the Islamic Center of Brescia.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Let's start. First of all, I'm happy to be here with you guys. And it's not a circumstantial sentence, but really I'm happy. I always like to be with our youth. They make us proud and they make us feel younger, which at 44 you might need it. Okay. Muhammad Abu Zahra told me, that most of the students are of English-speaking languages, or they speak English. So I said, well, if most of them are, let me speak in Italian, and then they will have the translation. But then I will tell you my stories that I've been in the United States and I studied at the university in the United States. So what's the point of saying it, in Italian to be translated in English? It doesn't, it's kind of, it's like instead of, where are you going? Right there. You go like that. Usually, since I became Muslim and I learned and everything, and I never really went back to a English-speaking country to teach. I stayed in Italy because I'm originally from Italy. So I never really had a lecture in English. Although some of my in-laws and my relatives are American. So when I go there, I speak the same language. They used to say, how are you, how's everything? It's not really a lecture, like technical terms and stuff like that. So it's, you forgive me about that today. It's like a new journey for me too. But it's not really a lecture. Let's see. I hope it will be a bit of an inspiration. It's a long journey, even my daughters, I have two daughters. One is 15 and the other is 14. And they tell me, Dad, you should write a book about your life. It has been a long journey. I study Sharia. I study Islamic law and Arabic language, and so I've done what usually scholars in Islam do, the same path. It kind of still makes me feel a little bit embarrassed, to say, he's a scholar, or say, I'm just like they say, a student of Sharia. I like to describe myself like that. It's a continuous process. When you a scholar of Islam, a real scholar of Islam, has to be really knowledgeable. That he will have to study all his life. Here you have, really complicated issues that you have to understand. So, yeah, it has been a long journey, and it started, for example, it started, the seed started, al-Badra, started when I was actually 14 years old. I read the autobiography of Malcolm X. I was in middle school, and they gave us, to read the books. They give you a list, and I read the autobiography of Malcolm X. Osama, some of the things I say it for the first time. Don't be like shocked about it, okay? Yeah, that biography actually left something in my heart, because if you are acquainted or you read it or you know about the life of Malcolm X, he was, really the spokesman for the Nation of Islam, which its distance is distant from Orthodox Islam. But he, at the end of his life, really understood what Islam was through the pilgrimage journey. So he came back to the United States with this idea of what is really Islam. That it's not about, a white or black issue. It's not about white devils, and it's not concentrated on that. It's something else. It's about the belief. It's about that all human beings have to worship the same God. So he came back, with a better and more pure understanding of Islam. And after a few months, he was killed. Yeah, he was assassinated. But anyway, that particular incident of him going to pilgrimage and understanding that Islam is something different really touched my heart. And I was 14 years old. Then my life went on. I used to play basketball. I was very good in basketball. And actually, at the end, I got a basketball scholarship at Wichita State University, which I think like a few years ago made the Final Four in the United States. So if you know something about American culture, there's something big there. Yeah. If you play for the basketball team, you're like a star. So anyway, but before I get there, I was still in Italy. I was still 14. But since I was 14, I had my ideas clear. I had to go to high school in the United States to get a scholarship to go to college to get picked up by the NBA. That was I had to figure it out. That was my idea, and I worked on it. And I was 14, so I started. And I started convincing my dad to send me to this intercultural student exchange program where you spend a year in high school. So I convinced my dad, and he sent me. Okay. So I went there, and I started playing. I played basketball. I used to play good here in Italy too. I used to play for those the youth of a professional basketball team in Italy, which at that time Brescia was in Serie A with the Filodoro, okay, and they had the youth, le giovanili, le chiamano, they raised good players. So I used to play for them. Let's not make it too much about basketball. Basketball less, but basketball still gets me, So I play anyway. I went to high school in the United States, and so I was close to the African American community. When I was at the university, I think we just had 2 white players in the whole African American basketball team. So I was really exposed to African American culture, and even then I like Malcolm X, the Nation of Islam. Yeah, African Americans should get their rights, and I was going with the flow, like they say, with my teammates and everything. So after the year in high school, I was playing good, okay. Good to get some letters from colleges, but not in Division I. Okay, in the U.S. you have 3 divisions. Division I is the top. You might get some letters from Division II colleges, and some NBA players made it from Division II colleges, even Scottie Pippen, you know, who used to play with Michael Jordan, he was from a third division college, you know, and he made it to the NBA. So anyway, but for some immigration laws, I could not, after my high school, access the university if I didn't have my diploma from the Italian school, because I didn't have a green card. Okay, so basically they shattered my dreams. You know, I was like 17, and now for some stupid immigration laws, I have to give up everything I worked for. So I had to come back to Italy. But I managed to take some private lessons to take the national exam. So I took, like, for a few months this private lesson. I took the national exam, and I could still enroll at the university. So I never studied so hard in my life like in those 5 days. I really gave it all I had. But I made it, and I went back to the United States, and I enrolled at Wichita State University. Then when I went there, my high school coach, went to the coach of Wichita and talked to him, and he kind of let him know who I was. So they accept for me to make a tryout. Okay, so I went to the team. I was a walk-on. They say a walk-on when you don't get a scholarship, but you actually go and say, hey, I'm good, try me out. So I went there, I made the team, and after I made the team, I actually got a scholarship for sports. Okay, and it was what I wanted. You have everything, like the team, they were so well structured. It was really nice. But then what happened? You know, when I was in the United States, you know, like I told you, the Nation of Islam was somehow in the picture all the time. So one time, one friend of mine took me, and this was in high school, took me to the mosque. Say, let me show you the mosque. So I went to the mosque, and I saw the mosque once. Then it didn't really made an impression. But then in college, I had to make a research about Orthodox Islam and the Nation of Islam, because I used to take minority studies, of course, in minority studies, where you study the civil rights movement and everything. The civil rights movement, the role of women, the Indians. You know, you study what are minorities in American culture. So I took that course, and in order to make a research in that course, I had to get material from the mosque. So I went to the mosque by myself, which was in front of the campus, the university campus. So I walked the street, and I went to the mosque to get some material. And I got the translation, the Quranic translation of Yusuf Ali, okay, of the Quran, which was it's really beautiful. Elizabethan English of the 8th century, really written like the King James version of the Bible, really elegant. And when I started reading it, it really touched my heart. And then other things about Islam. Then what happened is that I got injured. I got injured, and I had to stop, basically like 20 days, and I couldn't play basketball. So in those 20 days, as I got this material about Islam, I start thinking, well, what is the purpose of my life? I mean, if I analyze my life, I walk around the court, I throw the ball, you know, and my life is all about this basketball that goes inside the basket. Is this the purpose of life? and I start thinking, and that's when, by also reading the Quran, really touched my heart. And I think I went to the mosque to get this material, and it was Ramadan. And when I went in, the atmosphere, you know, was spiritual. I saw people prostrating, you know, making sujood, and it touched me because it's in the Bible. It's in the Old Testament, the prostration. but Christians nor Jews do it anymore. So maybe I thought, well, these guys, they seem very, attached to their religion. Maybe they didn't change it like we did, because we know we changed the religion. I mean, Christian knows that they changed throughout the church, throughout all these centuries. They changed things. Even my grandmother used to tell me, look, when I went to the church, I used to wear a veil. I mean, it was not respectful when you went to church and you didn't put your scarf on. So I was like, wow, really? And that was my grandmother. So, and then if you see the images of Mary, they always come and she has a scarf on her head. So, it's like, okay, they changed something, because it's not a practice anymore. And in many, in the Catholic Christianity, and so that kind of left me impressed, the way the Muslim kind of kept the prayers like I saw in the Old Testament. That touched my heart. And then the reading of the Quran really touched my heart, especially when I reached Surah Al-Imran, the family of Imran, when the Quran talks about Jesus and Mary and the family of Jesus, peace be upon them. It really touched my heart. Then I started going to the mosque more often. And I started, saluting people, saying hi to the brothers there, and I started praying with them. Then, maybe 10 days later or something, people say, okay, did you make the Shahada? Did you make the Shahada? I say, well, why do I have to make the Shahada? I'm praying with you. Isn't it enough, that I'm praying with you? No, you have to make the Shahada. You have to make the Shahada. So they took me to the Imam, and that Imam was a Yemeni scholar. And he was really something, because he studied nuclear engineering, and he was teaching at Wichita State, or in some university close to Wichita. And he had a master's degree in Hadith from Al-Azhar, and he was bright. I mean, you can tell, when you see a bright person, he was really bright. And so I made the Shahada, and he was originally from Taiz, from this area, Taiz in Yemen. And subhanAllah, destiny wanted that I would go to study in Yemen. And it was not by him arranging for me to go to Yemen. It was just really destiny. So I became a Muslim, and I was in my second year in college. And I was young. I was 20 years old, and I said, okay, to study. I was studying administration of justice. Okay, with the administration of justice, it's something that in the United States you can work as an immigrant officer, as a counselor, you can work in the correctional facilities. You have many areas where you can work with this degree. But then in the United States, really, you get a certain branch of job if you specialize and you study your master and your PhD. Okay, so it's kind of like a general degree. But anyway, so I had a long studying life waiting ahead of me. So I said, I'm young. I really like this religion. Why don't I learn it? Why don't I study it? And so I talked to the brothers in the community, and they suggested that I would go to Canada to learn. Probably, retrospectively, if I look back, I see that they say this is a young guy. You don't want to send him, to the Middle East or something. Let him gradually, learn. Don't shock him like that. So they sent me to Canada, and they sent me to a madrasa, a Pakistani madrasa. So the first teacher I had were, our Pakistani brothers and sister, Mufti Saab, and so I went there at Al-Jami'atul Islamiyya, the Islamic University in Ajax, close to Toronto. So I went there, and they were still building it. So it was a bit of a humble and spiritual environment, what I started learning. And so I memorized Juz Amma, the last juz of the Quran. And then in order to learn Arabic, I had to learn Urdu. And I knew that by learning English, how much it takes for you to master a language, to really understand it, to really appreciate it. So I said, Urdu is like Arabic to me. It's like written the same way. I mean, I will kill myself for Urdu. I might as well just kill myself for Arabic directly. And so after a while, I talked to Mufti Saab. I made my mashura, the counseling and stuff. And they decided that they suggested for me to go to Al-Madina University and study. Anyway, somehow I got to Jamiatul Iman in Sana'a, okay? And I went there, and I think I was like, by that time I was like 23 years old. And I went there, I had a few words of Arabic, Bismillah, some words of Arabic, Juz Amma. And I went there, and I learned Arabic, basically. And the university was an international university, open to all the students. So you had Europeans, Americans, and stuff. But when I went there, it was still under construction a little bit. So they didn't have, before the war in Yemen, because now they destroyed it, but before the war in Yemen, they actually structured it very well. They had a Arabic department where you study 2 years in order to access the university and to do your studies. So when I went there, I had one teacher, and I used to go to his house to learn. After Asr, after Asr prayer, I used to go there and learn like an hour and a half a day. But I managed it. Allah Azza wa Jal made it easy for me, and I think in 1 year and a half I learned Arabic. والحمد لله. استطعت أن أتعلم العربية بشكل جيد. أيوه. كده تمام. Then I started my university like any other Arab student, and I went to the first year, the second, the third. And this university wanted to be a university that would somehow reform. They had good ideas and everything. They made it like the old Azhar used to be, where you have to learn all the sciences, So I took a lot of sciences, a lot of courses, from 7 o'clock in the morning until Dhuhr. Okay, we used to study a little bit, like you told me. And I made it through the 6th year. After that, I exploded with 2 years of Arabic. It was like 8 years in Yemen. I said, it's enough, guys. Thank you. That's all. بهذا القدر نكتفي نستغفر الله لنا ولكم. And we go back. So it was enough, really, for me. And for what I wanted also to do in Italy, to teach Islam. It's like, okay, I don't have to be like Sheikh al-Islam, Let Arabic scholars solve the problems to their brothers and sisters, I'm just going back to people who don't know much. But then when I came back, and the reality is a bit different, because then you have Islamic centers that are a little bit like Arabic or Pakistani or Muslim countries within a country, a little bit, like mentality, culture. So all my experience definitely helped me to relate to my community. So I have a good relation with my Pakistani community in Brescia, and then I know the Arabs and how they think, and I know my people, how they think when we have to, do some intercultural, interreligious activities. So I'm a good bridge, for what I do, and I thank God, for giving me this great religion, for let me know Islam in this way. I look back and I get emotional when I think, how Allah Azza wa Jalla guided me. I don't want to just tell you a story. We have things in common. For example, I had an idea in my mind, and I worked hard for it, and I went to the United States for that. And I'm 5'7", I'm 1 meter and 74 centimeters. So, I had to work hard to play at Wichita State University and play basketball. But I worked hard for that, and then, since I was 14 and I have this work ethic, I took this work ethic when I went to study Islam. So I work hard on my Arabic, I work hard on my Islamic studies. And this is something that we have in common, because you guys are at the university, you left your countries, you're here, and all I can tell you is that, work hard, inshallah, and you will find the results, the fruits of your hard work in your life. And I study Islam, and you're studying engineering, but we're both Muslim. We both love Allah Azza wa Jalla. We both love our religion. But to be successful in life, you have to work hard. There's no successful person, if you look at his life, her life, that she didn't work hard. And when you have 20, when you're 20, when you have 25 years of age, 24, your age, you can do many more things that you can do when you're 44. The spirit is just different. You have this spirit that you can, climb mountains, and go for it. If you don't do it now, you're not going to do it when you're 40. So good luck for that, okay? Work hard and you'll find the benefits. I think, I'm conscious that Muslims, especially, when I speak to my Arab brothers, and sisters, and they think I'm Syrian. Sometimes they don't believe I'm Italian, because I speak well, which is okay, because I live almost 10 years in an Arab country. It's about time I speak well, okay? So, but they get impressed, and I know I touched them in their heart, because they see a Westerner. Let's talk clearly. Among our youth in Arab countries, they kind of some people like the West, and they are somehow,
Impressed.
Huh?
Impressed by.
Right. They like it, and me too. I wanted to go to the United States and play basketball and be on NBC. I can see why the West is something inviting. Not only for the freedom of life and everything, but also for the achievements. And now that you came to the West with a certain perception, where you live in here, you realize that some of the things that you used to think about, they're not right. Behind all this achievement, there's a lot of great work, a lot of people that work and study all day, and they live a decent life. They're decent people. But I know that when my brothers and sisters look at me and they see a Westerner that came to us to learn from us, that learn Islam, sometimes they say maybe better than we know Islam. Sometimes it's touching for people, I know that. And I understand, but I couldn't do what I've done if it wasn't for you that gave me a chance, to study in your countries and at your university. And Islam history is full of achievement and culture and great achievements and civilization. So hopefully, I hope I know I'm sometimes inspiring, to see that, okay, I should, why this guy learned my religion, and I don't take care of my religion. Sometimes you have this feeling in your heart. I know that, I'm conscious, and I like it. You know, I hope that Allah will use me to wake the conscience of many people. You know, to awake the conscience of many people. And may Allah use us all for that. Other than that, you know, really what I can tell you from my heart is that we are blessed by having Islam. We're really blessed. When I talk to a bit younger people than you, but I tell them, look, you guys are like prince and princesses of this world. You are. Because if just think about it, if you would have all the wealth in this world, what you will achieve in Jannah, it's something far behind all this wealth and greatness of this world. I remember that one hadith, you might know it, that the last person who enters Jannah, you know, after he will undergo a purification in the fire, and he will get out and he will be burned out, and then Allah will put him in the river of life, and he will start growing up like a vegetable very quickly. And the Prophet made شبهه بنبت في الصحراء لأنها تنبت بسرعة. Made a comparison between a vegetable that grows in the desert, that grows really quickly when waters come, and water is life. So this person will grow up, you know, like it was burned, and it will form very quickly, and then Allah Azza wa Jal will bring him close to paradise. He will swear that he will not ask for anything else except going close to paradise. But then he will ask for more until he will say, well, everybody got his place, can I get mine? And Allah Azza wa Jal will make him enter, and he will say, you will have, are you satisfied that you will have like a king of the kings of the world had? Of course I would be satisfied. Well, you have this and 10 times more. So can you imagine what the last person in paradise would get? So when I look at Muslims, young brothers and young sisters, I look at them and they're like prince and princesses. That's what they are. And that's what's waiting for you, inshallah ta'ala. Just work hard in your life. You know, I like this hadith of the prophets. قال صلى الله عليه وسلم من سلك طريقا يلتمس به علما سهل الله له طريقا في الجنة. هنا الشاهد النكرة غير معرف علما. ماذا قال العلماء؟ أي علم نافع، أي علم نافع. ومن علوم الدنيا يقولون أنفعها الطب، يعني يتعلق بالإنسان. الهندسة من العلوم النافعة. فأنت تندرج في هذا الحديث، ليس مخصوصا بطالب العلم الشرعي. من سلك طريقا يلتمس به علما نكرة، أي علم نافع. Therefore, this hadith is also for you, not just for students that go for learning Islamic law. I will translate this hadith. Okay, I will translate. And so you're doing something that is very rewarding, and whatever you will learn, you will benefit your community, yourself, and you have a lot of hasanat for that, a lot of good deeds for what you're doing right now. So, you know, may Allah bless you and give you the strength. The Prophet said, whoever initiate a path and searching for science, searching for any science, which is beneficial. Why searching for any science which is beneficial is not there, but is there because the word is not, it's indeterminate. It's indeterminate. And that indetermination in Arabic has a meaning. If it says al-ilm, you know, then al-ilm, you know, bil-alif lam, is the first thing you would think is the Quran or something. He said it, you know, any science that will benefit. So this hadith is not only for students going for Islamic sciences, but it's also for you. And therefore, the Prophet prayed for you. The Prophet said that whoever does that, Allah Azza wa Jal will easy for him a path towards paradise. And therefore it means it concretizes in that Allah will make your life easier. You will see Allah's help in your life, inshallah. May Allah bless you and make you happy and make you proud of being a Muslim, but proud not in a sense that you start looking people from up down. No, because faith touches the heart, and one thing that when faith touches your heart, it teaches you humility, humbleness. And have you ever seen a really a scholar or a Sahabi or the Prophet himself? Wasn't he humble? He was humble. One thing that really touches my heart is that when the people used to stand up for the Prophet, because they will love him. They will try to show him every respect that you would show to any important person. So some of them would stand up, some of them would get emotional in front of the Prophet. The Prophet would say, don't praise me like Christians do with Jesus, the son of Mary. I'm just a man, son of a woman who used to eat dry meat, al-qadid. أنا ابن امرأة كانت تأكل القديد. And اللحم المملح المجفف. لماذا تجففه؟ لأن ما فيش لحم. اللحم قليل، إذا تجففه تملحه من أجل أن يبقى معك. إذا مثل ما تقول من أصول متواضعة، من أسرة متواضعة. هذا من تواضع النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. For me is humbleness, and so Allah has gave you a great gift. Be proud of it, but not in the sense that you are not respectful toward people. خير الناس أنفعهم للناس. The Prophet said, the best people are those who are most beneficial to people, and so that is to be kept in mind. Even when you look at Islam, it's not about rituals. Rituals are important in Islam, and they have our respect. Every community has rituals, But if you look at Islam, it's not the real emphasis. Even that ayah, ليس البر أن تولوا وجوهكم قبل المشرق والمغرب ولكن البر من آمن بالله واليوم الآخر وآتى المال على حبه ذوي القربى. Even that's a really touching verse, because even though it's like a condition of our prayer to pray towards Qibla, Allah Azza wa Jal says it's not really piety. It's not really addressing yourself towards the west or the east. It's really believing sincerely in God and His Prophet, and giving your wealth to the poor, to the needy, to the orphans. And also, for example, look at the fact that the Prophet said, لا شيء أثقل على الميزان من حسن الخلق. أكمل المؤمنين إماما أحسنهم أخلاقا. Ethics and behaving well, there's nothing more heavy on the balance, of the Day of Judgment. More than that. That tells you something about it, that ethics and good behavior, is really no less than prayers and doing our fasting and everything. It doesn't mean that you can, and it shouldn't mean that you have to, I will be a good person and I will have good ethics, but so I don't have to pray because, there's nothing heavier on the balance. Of course, that's not what the hadith wants to teach, because where do we go with all the other hadith and all the other verses of the Quran? But it says that, if you pursue your life, and doesn't have to be necessarily the imam or the scholar of Islam, or you pursue your life as an engineer, as a doctor, as anyone you want to be, and benefits his community. Inshallah, Allah Azza wa Jal will consider that and make it as a worship, and will give you the reward of worship. Because when someone goes out to gain for himself and his family, is fi sabilillah, is going out in the path of Allah, and it means something really noble. So going to work, going to study, it's a source of reward, and good ethics is a source of reward. And the Prophet said in one of his beautiful hadith, and the Prophet has this capacity of using few words to express many beautiful meanings. In one hadith, which you could write with golden water, I like ma'id dhahab, okay? It's like, اتق الله حيثما كنت وأتبع السيئة الحسنة تمحها وخالق الناس بخلق حسن خالق الناس بخلق حسن. هذا الشاهد الحديث كله. اتق الله حيثما كنت. Fear God wherever you are. Okay? You are in Italy, away from your family, fear Allah, because Allah is with you everywhere you go. So fear Allah means, at-taqwa has many meanings, but one thing is that you live and you know that Allah Azza wa Jal is there. He's there. And it's not just fear. It's, a sense of presence of Allah. So it's living in the presence of Allah. So be like that wherever you are. And, كل ابن آدم خطأ. The Prophet said every son of Adam is a sinner. We all make mistakes, big or small. We're sinners. No one can say, I'm pious, totally, معصوم عن الخطأ. You can't say that. So all of us are like that. Well, what is the solution? The solution is that you return to God. And in practical life, if you make a mistake, you make a sin, don't, take your hair, peel it out from your head, or you feel like, okay, there's no good in me. Forget about me. No, don't say that. Well, if you make a mistake, do something good in order that that good deed will eventually wipe away that sin. And this is a way of life. And then live among people with a good behavior, with good ethics. Three things. If you look at this hadith, the Prophet touched our entire life, our relationship with God, our relationship with religion, and our relationship with people. Can you be more brief than the Prophet touching everything? How you are really sincere with God when you fear Him wherever you are. You feel that connection. Okay, then how that translates? Well, it translates that you live, you do your worship and everything, but you will eventually fall. You will eventually commit mistakes. You will eventually sin. Now, what is the solution? You give up? No, you don't give up. Just try to make up for your bad deeds. And after that, but this is somehow personal. It's your relationship. It's about you. But you're not you. You live in a community. So how are you going to be in a community? Be among people with a good behavior. May Allah bless you. I think, if we try to live this and we can do it in our life, we'll also be good examples of Muslims, and also be a way to let people know about Islam, because it's a great light. And you don't want to just keep it to yourself. You want also other people to know the light and the blessing that you have. And So if you cannot be a good inviter, at least don't be someone who kind of like scares people away from Islam, because you know he has bad manners and everything. So people say, okay, I don't want to deal with all Muslims like that and everything. So may Allah bless you, inshallah. That's it. I think I've told you everything about my life. May Allah bless you, inshallah. I know you have your questions. So,
We have some questions.
Prima se ci sono domande sulla vita o su questo, se non poi entriamo nel
Okay.
Just one clarification for me.
Okay.
You were studying like in the US and you started frequenting a mosque. Was it a NOI mosque or like an Orthodox mosque?
Good. It was really a nice mosque. It was there was Arabs in it,
Okay.
and there were Pakistanis, and they were just fine. And I didn't even feel, like a difference. I thought really they were brothers, and I didn't feel like, there were sections in the mosque, or it was a cohesive mosque, a united mosque. I like it. And one thing about our center in Brescia, it's really that is a bit like that. It has like more than 20 cultures inside, ethnic groups. We have Pakistanis, Moroccans, Libyans, Africans, Senegal, and then Africans, you mean Senegal, you have Costa d'Avorio, Sa'irul Hajj, huh? Costa every coast, everything. I mean, you got like 30, and it's so beautiful, but you have to be patient. Sometimes you want the easy way out. So you say, okay, you know what? إن الطيور على أشكالها تقع. Okay, right. But then you cannot go on the easy way. Okay, I'll stay with my friends. We understand each other better. Let's make the Pakistani mosque. Let's make the Arab mosque. Let's make the Moroccan mosque. Let's make the Libyan mosque. Let's be patient. And let's know about each other. We'll enjoy it more. And when people come, they will see something that is really characteristic of Islam. Isn't Islam a religion for all the world? So when you see all the world in a mosque, it's a religion of all the world. So, inshallah, make it easy.
How was, when you were studying Arabic in Yemen, you said that you didn't know anything about Arabic when you went there. How was the first, how was the time when you learned it? Was it
Right. That was a long time ago. Juz Amma helped me. I don't know, the Arabic words just got into my head, and when I started reading them, I don't know, they kind of look familiar. I don't know. Once, the real tricky thing is to get past the writing. I think that is the most scary thing to Westerners. That language that is like, how do you read it? Like this? When you get past that thing, then actually the Arabic grammar, which scares you a lot, I know it's actually nice. 3 cases: al-raf'u, al-nasbu, al-jarru, and then a, i, u. Okay? I know you have like 100 of exceptions, which drive you crazy, but and I started going, زيد ذاهب إلى المدرسة ثم هبطت الطائرة في الساعة التاسعة ونصف يتبع هذا التابع أو هبطت الطائرة 9:30 منصوب على الظرفية. Okay. Then I got the Alfiya ibn Malik. I don't know if you know it, but but Arabic lines generally look nice. I love it. I kind of learn it quickly. I pick it up quickly. Yeah, but the beast is getting past that writing. Once you get there, الفاعل والمفعول المبتدا والخبر, then you learn more the structure المفعول به المفاعيل مفعول معه مفعول فيه you'll get your way through it.
He has a question first.
Since you were at the age of 23 when you started traveling, how did you manage like family pressure, your finances, and other stuff like the basics that we are facing right now? Like if a person like if one of us wants to go to Medina University or Qura University, how can we balance this education with that and the finances and the family pressure and stuff like that?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a good question. Well, you know, I could give you my experience, but other people will have other experiences. There will be some common points. There will be some common grounds, definitely. Yeah, family was difficult. Was difficult. If my father didn't really have an heart attack when I told him, Dad, you know, I'm going to study in Yemen, and he worked hard to send me to the United States and study, just like your parents, you know, invest in you, you know, and my dad invested in me from high school. But then, you know, I made it easy for him to college, in college with my scholarship, but it was tough. It was tough, and to tell your family. And in fact, it was the relationship with my dad kind of like became harder, became difficult, really difficult. But you know, one thing that really helped me when I was young, living my dream, is that I learned this hadith. You know, I learned it in English back at that time. But it's like man taraka shay'an lillah awadahu Allahu khayran min. Make it the motto of your life. Shi'ar hayati. Ij'alhu shi'ar hayati. Really, that's the best gift, the best advice I can give you tonight, because of your question. You know, or else I would not remember it. But it's the best thing I can tell you. My little brother and my little sister, you know, man taraka shay'an lillah awadahu Allahu khayran minhu. Whoever leaves something for God, God will replace it with something better than that thing that you left. Whoever leaves something, gives up something for Allah, like a meeting that you wanted to go, like a special person that you wanted to meet because you don't guarantee what's going to happen. You know, something, a job that you know is not right, a friendship that you know is not, takes you away from God. المرء على دين خليله فلينظر أحدكم من يخالف. Men follow the religion of their best friends. Look well to whoever you take as your best friend. That's the advice of the Prophet. But to give away a friendship, male or female, okay, that you care, because you're doing it because it's not right. Believe me, that thing will come back, because you're dealing not with just any entity. You're dealing with Akramul Akramin. Think of you and imagine when you're generous. You know, when you're generous and a friend gives you something or does something for you, you just want to take him out to dinner. You wanted to show him, you know, your appreciation. It's normal. It's human nature. That's generosity. Can you imagine Allah's generosity? When you suffer and you tear and you cry for something that you want it, but you're leaving it because it's not right. Can you imagine how much Allah Azza wa Jal will work things out for you, and there will come a point in your life when you will get that thing back with the interest. You will get it back. And so I had a hard time with my dad, because see, my family, they're from dentistry. They work with dentistry. Okay, you have to hear this. I told you, my daughter said you have to write a book. But this is funny, Because my family, they work with dentistry. My dad was a dental technician. My uncle was a dentist, graduated dentist. My aunt was selling dental material. My mother was an hygienist. You know, everyone was in it. I had to be the dentist. You know, I had to be the dentist, but I couldn't even stand the blood. So how am I become? I don't want to be a dentist. So anyway, so my dad, when I went to study, I mean, like administration of justice. You know, what is administration of justice? Be a dentist. Dad, I'm gonna play in the NBA. Don't worry, I'll make money. So. Okay, he was kind of like, yabla, you know, swallows it because, you know, I was going to play in the NBA. So when I called him that I'm going to study Islamic sciences in Yemen, oh, man, that was a hard hit for my dad. That was a hard hit. But guess who I married? I married a dentist. I married a dentist. And I didn't plan it. It's not like you know, it came. And my wife graduated from Al-Jamia Al-Urduniya fi Amman, you know, which is a prestigious university in Arab countries, and she's a dentist. So I said, Dad, you know, not me, okay? I'm a bad son for you. I know, but look. So the family name will survive through the ages. So actually, my wife came, and she's a hardhead too. You know, she lived in Germany when she was young. You know, her dad was a diplomat, so they lived in Germany. So she, you know, grew up in Germany. And she's a hardhead, and when she came to Italy, she made that exam, that thing to recognize her degree. Start to get even the number of seats in the dentistry department is really close. It's really tough. So they're not going to open the doors for foreign dentists to come and work in Italy. So they made the exam so hard, really so hard. The Ministry for Education, you know, they made this really tough exam. So it took her 4 years to pass this exam. 4 years, like another university. But she made it, alhamdulillah. And the results, she failed for 4 years. So she failed maybe like 6 times. She would pass the written exam, but if you fail the oral exam, you have to redo the written and the oral. Okay, so really, at the end, she's done that, and we went for Hajj. Okay, she finished the exam. From Rome, we went to Hajj. I said, let's go and pray. And that year, she passed. And the results came, and we were checking it online when we were in Mecca. And I called her, and she was in front of the Kaaba when I told her, you passed the exam. You know, subhanAllah. And now she's a dentist, she works, you know, and sometimes I speak, you know, with my dad and stuff. And even I'm from my own city, my Brescia city. Sometimes someone asks about direction to go to a certain place. My wife started to talk. Yeah, you have to go there and there. I started to talk. I'm from Brescia, and my dad said, okay. So after 20 years, Allah made a way for Him to accept us as a family and to respect us. My mother, she's very happy. My mother became a Muslim. My mother entered Islam. You didn't know, when I was in Genoa, she didn't enter Islam. My mother became a Muslim like 3 months ago. She made the SHAHADA, and she learned. She's like 64, and she learned the Fatiha in Arabic. And I'm so proud. And tomorrow she's coming to my lesson. That's thank you for the question. You were the ignition. You were the ignition. من ترك شيئا لله عوضه الله خيرا منه. Allah will have many things for you. You just have to, you know, get in connection with your God. He's the most generous. Take it easy. Don't stress yourself, but be strong. You know, don't be weak. Inshallah. May Allah give you strength. Give us all of us.
Anas has a question.
I just want to ask you, one of the key points of your story was the beginning, was the starting point,
Yeah.
which is reading.
The
So
reading.
you read the autobiography of Malcolm X, and that was the starting point of the path that approaches you to Islam. So, what is the power of reading, and according to your point of view, what is the relationship between reading and Islam?
Beautiful, a beautiful question. Like you want me to remind everyone that the first verse is Iqra. You want me to remind that, which is right. You're on the point. نحن أمة اقرأ. اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق. خلق الإنسان من علق. اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم بالقلم علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم. ما أجمل هذه الآيات. اقرأ نحن أمة اقرأ. So reading is the basic of our, should be the basic of our culture, our approach, learning. So yeah, that's very important. And you guys at the university, a very good university. So I know you read a lot and everything, but eventually, when you go out the university, keep it as something in your routine, your daily routine, that you read something. And of course, I suggest you that you give some time every day for your spiritual reading, okay? Even if it's 15 minutes, 20 minutes, but do it in a constant way, some Quran, some books, you know. And then also general culture, books in general, you know. Recently I read a book about geology. It was very nice. The title is The Fish That It's Within Us. That's the title of the book. You know, it's about the نظرية التطور. Okay.
Theory of evolution.
Okay, the evolution theory, right? But there's some aspects that are really interesting because see, when scholars want to know how is life 200 million years ago, they look at the rocks. They break the rocks and they see what kind of living beings were at that time. So by studying, you know, through a scale of period of time, you can see how life evolved to a certain point, etc., etc. So it was interesting, and I think there's no book that doesn't teach you anything, even if it's only for learning new words. So you don't be scared of reading, you know, especially if you already develop your thinking and you're comfortable of reading anything, you know, because you don't feel that it will take you away from certain values, you know. But reading is important, and at that time, the school made you read, the teacher, you know, you have to read this book. But hey, I'm grateful I read it, and yeah, it was the seed, you know, the seed. Yeah, I love this.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. You said that you were inspired by reading the book about Malcolm X, and you said that we as Muslims should let the non-believers know about the light that is Islam. My question is, what is the best way, according to you, to share the light with the non-believers, considering the image of Muslims right now in the world?
You have to do an extra effort to improve the image. For the sake of Allah, you know, it's not a waste of time or a waste of effort. You're doing it because you want people to know this beautiful religion. And if you take that extra step in order to do it, because someone is doing certain things in the name of Islam, which is you know, shedding a bad light on our religion, do it, you know. As far as okay, how are we supposed to, you know, like show the good light of Islam. How to do it? Like I mentioned before, I think the best way of doing it is by behaving, being honest, being nice people. You know, if people, for example, say of Muslims that they're not nice, but eventually in the media or in the media generally, they tend not to speak nice of us as a community, which I think is very unfair, but that's what it is. And there are reasons, and let's not look at the reasons. That's the reality of facts. But if you behave well and you are nice, a nice person, for the sake of Allah, for the sake of also, once you are honest, you maybe strive a little bit to get that behavior in yourself, but once you're an honest person, then it becomes natural for you to be like that. And you start liking. So, if you develop that habit, you know, eventually you are a nice person. And then your neighbor will say, well, I hear bad things about Muslim, but my neighbor is one of the sweetest person I know. Is one of the nicest persons I know. So I don't know what they're saying in the media. They say a lot of things that are not true. You know, it's not like media, they say things, you know, guys, that are also not true about other issues, you know, not just Muslims. So they will say, well, you know, let them say whatever they want to say about Islam. The Muslims I know, they're nice people. Is there anything more that you can do? There's not. And believe me, people will be more affected by your behavior than your words, for sure. You know that. You know that. It's normal. And actually, isn't like something that really bothers when people speaks well and they don't behave as well? Doesn't that leave you bitterness, you know? It leaves you bitter. So it's better to behave well than to make lectures and say how Islam is pure and how Islam is beautiful, and then you don't behave well. What's the point? You're actually behaving like you're a hypocrite, which is even worse, you know. Allahu A'lam.
David has a question.
First of all, thank you for coming to us and sharing your life story. That was quite, I can relate a lot of things. I mean, we, all of us, find common points. You said your first madrasa in Canada was a Pakistani,
Pakistan.
also Pakistan, so we are trying to find some common ground. And Urdu is my mother tongue.
Take it.
Yes, so my question is in continuation with what Anas asked. It is related to like reading and thinking. That even before reading, because you said when you shared your story that you played basketball, you went to United States, you were having a very good time, and what you had planned, your life plan, that was going very smoothly. So at that moment, it's very difficult to have a change of philosophy. I mean, what was that inspiration, that spark which put you on this way? Because I think if you had not been inspired, or you did not have the change of philosophy, you would continue with your basketball. Maybe you became NBA, and today we hear you on the media as
Ghidoni.
So what was that inspiration, and what I want to understand that thing, because that changes the entire route.
Yeah. Okay, Islam. Okay, I know this book. I read it. I was reading this book when I was injured. Islam on Focus. Islam in Focus. Something like that. It's in English.
Muhammad Asad?
Yeah, I think. And I like that. I like that book. I haven't read it since like 24 years. I don't even remember what's in there. But at that time, it sounds good what it said, and also the reading of the Quran, the translation of the Quran. Al Imran really touched my heart because it gave me those answers that I wouldn't get at the church or talking to the priest. Some dilemmas about the nature of Jesus and the Trinity, you know, the concept of Trinity, that it's a bit hard to believe. And even the church says, well, it's like, they say it's a dogma. You know, it's something that you have to believe even though you cannot logically understand it, but it's part of faith. It's part of your faith, and it indicates the strength of your faith if you believe. When I went to the Quran, I saw a different approach. I saw, okay, look around you, look at nature. Everything here could be the creation of someone other than the Lord of the universe. Wow, that approach is something. And then also, because I could speak like a lot, you know, I have many things to say, but you know, but for example, the scientific facts in the Quran are also something astonishing. You know, the description of the mountains, the description of the stages of the embryo. But even, see, that thing I understood afterwards. You know, I even took courses, university courses on that, because the teacher was very well versed, very well knowledgeable about these issues. The Sheikh that also created that university in Yemen. But that was afterwards. But the approach is there. Look at nature. Look at the trees, the air you breathe. You know, is there another God other than Allah? You know, that touches my heart. That's something. Also, then in the Quran, and then I told you, I mentioned it before, when I got injured, I stopped. You know, this, even think about our life here in the West. إنه يعني الشيطان الذي يشغلك بكل شيء ما عدا الله. I mean, I don't want to be, you know, heavy in my word, but I say it, you know, with affection. It's like, you know, we have to get busy. We have to get busy with everything. You have to get busy with the work. Then after the work, you go to take a course. Then you have to go and do to the gym. Yeah, every day you are busy. You're busy because you find it difficult to stay by yourself, to enjoy staying by yourself, thinking. No, you don't want to think. Think brings you depression, because what is life? You know, it's just I work. All my life is working, and feeding my children. Then when they go to college, what do? So you keep yourself busy with things, not to think about your life. And for a 20-year-old, even this is harder. I was busy with my life. School, practice. We used to practice from 3 to 7 every day. And then you're dead by the time you take a shower, and you study a little bit, and then you go to bed. You wake up for the next day, and it's just like that, like a roller coaster, you know. But when I got injured, since I was 14, because I used to play basketball all the time, snow, rain, you know, I would, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't do anything. So Allah made it easy for me to have the Quran and those books, and read them and say, okay, what is my life? No, really, what is my life? I created human being and spirits to worship me. I don't ask them food or nutrition. I am the provider. Wow. You know, my life is worshiping God. I mean, really, that's the purpose of it. And so these are the things, you know, and I started looking at life in a different perspective. But I had to stop. I had to kind of sprain my ankle and not being able to play basketball, to stop and think, what is my life? Really, I mean, okay, to worship God, it's honorable. it's noble. It's a noble goal of life, you know? To throw a ball in a basket and all this mess around it, you know, all this money and everything. Is it really worthy the life of a human being? This kind of ideas. That was the turning point. The point of no turning back.
Related to his question, I was curious about why did you choose to read about Islam instead of reading about, for example, self-improvement books that are going well today?
Yeah, self-improvement was not that, how do you say,
Trendy.
trendy, beautiful. It was not that trendy in my time. But you know what? Also, when actually before before knowing Islam, there was something inside me that changed a little bit. Because a few months before, I felt more spiritual. I wasn't, okay, my family, they're Catholics, but I was not very religious myself. I was not very religious. I went to Catholic schools and everything. Even in America, I went to a Catholic school. But you know, it was not like, okay, I want something else. My life is basketball and other things. But before actually those events, I felt spiritual, and I said, okay, I don't want to read the New Testament, because I read it since I was a child, and there's all the issues about Jesus and everything. I want to read more the Old Testament, you know. And I also look at the Jews, you know, how they were more practicing than Christians on some issues. I started reading the Old Testament more. And then I started going to church. See, I wanted to be religious, so I used the tools that I had available around me. And I went to church, you know, to different church, even Protestant churches. Not like I would go every day, but I went to church more. And okay, I kept that in mind and everything. Then, when I started reading the Quran, I said, this is something different. I don't know, there's something about the Quran. And plus, you know, I'm from Europe, and you know, the Roman Empire, the Crusades. I know Islam is something big. It's something big. I mean, historically, Muslim, it's not like a sect, you know, like something, a small reality. This Muslims are like a huge part of this world, and historically, they gave a hard time to Europeans, you know, for centuries. So they're not small. It's something big. So when I read the Quran, these meanings, and these beautiful words, and knowing that, well, they changed history. They were something strong, not less than Christians in the West, not less powerful than the empires in the West. That also touched me, because it made me feel that this is something huge. It's not like I don't want to mention like some sect, you know, not to mention any names. They come to your house, look, you know, we found the truth, you know. But then they come, then a new one comes out, and these sects, you know, sect. How do you say sect?
Yes,
Sects, right? You have like one borns every 20 years and dies out after 30. You know, they're not something that stays, you know, and make a change in history. But Islam did. So when I read it with respect, you know. And when I read the meanings, I said, SubhanAllah. Yeah. And plus, you guys are from the Middle East, Palestine. There, I mean, you know, I think that when something, all the tradition, it's from there. So I thought, well, if you want to learn, you we should go to the people who had that tradition, because when a tradition goes to another country, it tends to change. In fact, if with all respect, if you study Christianity, it changed a lot through by taking in beliefs of the Greeks, and it accommodated the beliefs of the Roman Empire, which culturally was an extension of the Greek culture, the Roman Greek culture. So a lot of elements are from this culture, and the religion was kind of made to accommodate these ideas. Whereas when I looked at the Christians and the Jews there, they lived a different lifestyle. They really lived the commandments, not like us Westerners, I would say. So when I looked at Muslim, I looked with respect to them, that they are people that are keeping their religion and they're serious about it. So that also touched my heart.
Does anyone have any questions?
Start with the question.
So if we ask you now, how would you tell us the purpose of your life, the answer to the big questions? Did you shape it right now?
How do I answer to the big questions of life, where I came from, what am I doing, and where I'm going?
Yes.
Okay, these are the big questions of life. Alhamdulillah, Islam taught me, and that's subhanAllah, something I'm grateful. Where I came from, I know. I'm the son of Adam, just like you. And what am I doing here? I know it. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Where I'm going, I know it. Inshallah. And this is in itself is something that really gives a different perspective of life. I mean, we can talk to it, in an easy way, but if you think about it, why people here are so scared about talking about death. And, it's something like it's a taboo. You cannot mention it. I mean, if you mention death or a funeral, I mean, you're ruining our evening or something, It's not like it's nice also between you guys, that while you're talking and stuff, someone brings the janazah all the time and death and malakul maut, it will be heavy too, But we look at it in a more easy perspective. It's part of life. I mean, this is the end, and we'll go to a better world. But this helps us in our life, how we approach life, and the fact that Allah, in His mercy, Al-Insan, he fears the unknown. The fear of the unknown of the human being is something that his nature has a hard time to cope with. Now, all this teaching about what is waiting for us and the steps of death, wahayatul barzakh, the intermediate stage, are also ways of calming us down. Like we know what's going to happen, inshallah, and what are the next phases and why we're here. So Islam gave me an answer, to the big questions of life, and hopefully I hope I found the answers, and every day I'm أكتشف شيئا جديدا بالقراءة. Every day you learn something by reading, by having experience in life.
Did you discuss this question with your daughter, for example?
Oh my God, my daughter's now she's in the third year of high school. I had very few gray hair. But I noticed that in the past 2 years, I got an explosion of gray hair. And I think it's because of my daughters. Which I love them a lot and everything. But all the teenage issues and everything. Some of you grew up in Italy, and I'm pretty sure you made your families, your dads and mothers' hair turn gray a lot. Or a few, it depends. So it's difficult. I try to talk. Now my daughter is 17. I'm sorry, I said 15, but I have to update. One is 17, the other is 15. Yeah, maybe the emotion of starting to speak with you. So 17, yeah, I start talking to my daughter about the main thing. We live close to the mosque. We are related to the mosque. I send my daughters to the Arabic school, but it's not easy to raise children in the West. It's hard. It's really hard because you have a lot of challenges. The time you spend in your family and with your parents could be very good quality, and their words are dear to you, but your peer influence, the time you spend away from the family in school, it's a lot more, and you get influenced, and your ideas get influenced too. And sometimes my daughters ask me things that I say, look, it's hard. I mean, how can you even ask me something like that? No, Dad, it's hard. Inshallah, man, make dua for me. But they're also giving a lot of happiness too, and tante soddisfazioni.
So when I talk with my friends about Islam, their main argument is that they don't need a religion to tell them that how to behave. Like they can do good without being sad. And how can we change this narrative about the people who follow a religion, Islam or any other religion? They're not just like sheep. They just they don't do stuff because they are told to do so. So how can we show people that following a religion is more like making a choice and not just blindly following some rules?
It's a long process. It's hard. When you have friends, you try to explain these things. It's not going to be like in a word or a sentence. It's a concept. I also live, with many of members of my family are not even Muslim. I experience, relating to non-Muslims, and so I see what you're saying. One thing I try to show them is that, we follow a certain ethic, but that ethic, it's not, we supposed to follow it when we understand it, and we actually have faith. I mean, we do it because of the faith that whoever told us to do this is the creator of things. And I like to say, look at the universe. It's so wonderful and so daqiq, so complicated, and there's so many laws and everything. Who created, and these laws are so precise, that when you look at the universe, our bodies, our brains, that we're still discovering and mapping the brain. It's like, we discover so many things, but we still don't understand things within our own self, And when we discover them, and I tell them, for example, look, we get surprised by artificial intelligence. It's something that, wow, it really surprises you how great certain things are becoming in the technology. But to create this kind of things, to engineer them, it takes so much work. And honestly, compared to the capability of a brain, even Siri, how she interacts with you, it's really just a small percentage of the capability of a human being to interact. And we get surprised by Siri, or Google, but we don't get surprised about us and how much did it take to create this, the technology of 3,000 years, step by step. So, what about the technology to create us? Isn't it great? Isn't it something so special? You know? The creator of this is the one that's telling you, look, eat whatever, but don't eat pork. Drink whatever, but don't drink alcohol. Now, the pork issue, I tell him, it's a bit difficult. Honestly, I cannot totally explain it. And if I will explain it in a certain way, you will debate it in another way. But let's take alcohol. Here, the same one that told me about the pork is the same one that told me about alcohol. Now look at alcohol. Okay, you can tell me there's antioxidants and everything. You can tell me my grandma actually lived until she was 94. Okay? So, I know you're not convinced that if you drink some wine, your life will be destroyed. But don't look at it from this perspective. Is alcohol as a community? Because now we have other problems. We as a Western society don't look at each other as a community anymore. We look at each other as very much independent individuals, and look how society is standing towards this. And the idea, the concept of community, but in Islam, in the community that Allah wants to create, we are brothers and sisters, and we care about each other. Now, as human beings, as sons of Adam, we cannot just look the other way when millions of people die for drinking-related diseases. Now, I think every year, you have millions of people dying because of alcohol-related diseases in the world. I mean, in like 5 years, in a 5-year span, we'll have the same amount of people who died in World War II that died because of alcohol-related diseases. Now, is alcohol good for us as a community as a whole? No, it's something that it's more destroying to us than World War II. Did the world move to evitare, to avoid that World War II would repeat? Yes, they made the European community. They made laws so that we don't follow in the same mistakes. You've done all that, but you're not looking at the fact that millions of people are dying because of alcohol. Now, the one that created me with this technology is the one that is telling me, don't do this, because there is a reason. Now, the reason here is apparent. In the pork is less apparent. In other issues is less apparent. But there is a reason. Why the relationship between men and women are obstructed in Islam, except within the marriage circle? Well, if you look at Western society, you find some answer to this question. Now, look at Western society as something that it's ahead of your world like 30 years. If you keep doing the same things, you will eventually reach the situation that we're here now. We look at the United States like 20 years Europe ahead, okay? And there are some really big issues there that create problems to the society itself, to the family. Now, one big issue right here is that the elderly here, it's a big issue. They work all their life and they're alone. In Italy, it's better than the United States because of the family is still more. But what I'm saying is that why you don't want to find yourself after a life of work, you are 60 or 70 and you have a child or you don't have any children. Because now if you see people now tend to marry when they're 40, 42 now for my generation. How are you gonna do? Are we just going along with society? That we live as individuals, we don't get married, we don't procreate, we don't make children. I'm talking about as Italian, German, as Europeans. We're like being extinct like the dinosaurs. We're like dinosaurs that are being extinct. In fact, the new wave of children who are born, who are getting born in our country is from the immigrant families. Okay? Now, why is that? Because we don't have stable relationship, at the beginning. We keep having a relationship to, fulfill our desires and our physical needs, but we don't look at that as something to create a family. If you create a family, then you have your children, you have, the grandfather that sits down, the nephews. It becomes, for the human being, better for his psyche and his mental well-being to have that kind of life. So, of course, I went far away to tell you, okay, well, certain things like intimacy in Islam are delicate, but eventually, the Lord who has created the universe and our society and wants for us and knows where our well-being is, also psychological well-being. He has made all these laws for us, to our benefit, to live well. If we respect them, we will be a healthy society, money-wise, psychological-wise. If we don't, and we live like we think it's better for us, we will create social problems. And issues and problems that are not just problems that are solved, but that actually attack the roots of our society itself. Because when you attack the family, and you don't have a consideration for the family, then you don't have a society. Can we say that Islam put emphasis on respecting the family and creating, through marriage, well-consolidated families that know where they come from? Is this good for society? It's good. Maybe, it bothers you a little bit that you cannot do certain things when you're young, but for the well-being of our society, it's better for us that way. That's a long way, but you can explain it in different meetings.